The atmosphere in the great hall suddenly froze. Hu Qubing stood in place with furrowed brows, looking at the pale-faced Kai Yuan, not knowing what to say. This matter, what do you think? Emperor Wu of Han slowly opened his mouth. Hu Qubing remained silent for a moment, then said, I am not familiar with celestial prophecies and dare not speak rashly. Astrology is ultimately just mysticism, its truth difficult to determine, but to speak of great chaos will arise, and all living beings will suffer within a day, before the current emperor could easily result in beheading. It was clear that after 2 consecutive imperial astronomers died suddenly, Kai Yuan was truly panicked. At this moment, his fear of the Red Star and prophecy had completely overshadowed his reverence for the royal family. Recently, I have indeed received many memorials about evil spirits causing trouble, and have sent many people to provide disaster relief and drive away evil. However, our great Han is neither being invaded by foreign enemies to the point of national destruction, nor suffering from famine or drought. How could a mere red star in the sky cause all living beings to suffer within a single day? Emperor Wu's voice was extremely deep. Kai Yuan stood aside, stammering for a long time, unable to form a complete sentence. Emperor Wu stared at him for a long while, until cold sweat continuously seeped from Kai Yuan's temples, before slowly speaking. Enough, you may leave now. Yes. Kai Yuan felt as if granted amnesty, turning to leave. After just one step his legs gave way. It was Hu Qubing's quick reflexes that caught him. After repeatedly expressing his gratitude, Kai Yuan hurriedly fled from the hall. Hu Qubing's gaze returned from Kai Yuan's retreating figure and he turned to ask, Your Majesty. Official Kai was simply too frightened. I certainly understand that. I am not an unreasonable, benighted ruler. Emperor Wu waved his hand and sat down helplessly. However, we still must guard against the danger of this red star. Are those 30,000 troops still outside the city? They are. I will issue an edict immediately. Those 30,000 troops, along with the Yulin army within Chang'an, will all be under your command. You must guard all areas of Chang'an carefully. As for the other vassal states, I have already sent letters instructing them to be vigilant. Yes. Just as Hu Qubing turned to leave, he suddenly seemed to remember something and spoke again. I have one more request. Chang'an Postal Station. Chloe hung her bamboo hat on the wall, turned to look at Lin Chia with several missionaries standing behind him, their eyes wide open, seemingly ready to throw this young man out of the room at any moment. Is it safe enough here? Chloe slowly began. Who exactly are you? My name is Lin Chia. I come from more than 2,000 years in the future. Lin Chia went straight to the point. The reason I came here should be related to you. No, to be precise, it's related to your future self. Lin Chia's opening statement delivered a critical hit to the many missionaries behind him. They stared in shock, their faces full of disbelief. More than 2,000 years in the future? Chloe also frowned. She lowered her head and paced around the room for a long time, as if contemplating something. Let me see it again. What? Just the place you just showed me. Chloe's cheeks flushed red as she spoke somewhat irritably. Lin Chia raised an eyebrow and naturally pulled down his collar, revealing the 2 sacred covenants. To be honest, the location of these 2 marks wasn't that private. But judging from Chloe's reaction, it was somewhat unexpected to Lin Chia. He had always thought that the legendary proxy of Yurand would have a personality that transcended worldly matters, coldly looking down upon all living beings. Now it seemed that she possessed more humanity than expected. Thinking carefully, it made sense. As a messenger appointed by Yurand to spread teachings in the mortal world, she naturally needed to integrate into human society and experience human suffering and joy. Perhaps after experiencing enough suffering over a long enough time, she would be able to complete her mission from a perspective that gradually transcended humanity. Chloe, with a red face, carefully examined the two sacred covenants on Lin Chia's chest for a long time, nodding thoughtfully. Yes, these were indeed left by me. The missionaries exchanged glances, shock appearing in their eyes. They were ultimately ordinary people by birth, and although they had witnessed the Holy Lady's abilities, something extending directly to 2,000 years in the future completely exceeded their understanding. Can you tell what the functions of these three sacred covenants are? Lin Chia asked the question he was most eager to have answered. No, Chloe shook her head. These marks are proof of the sacred covenant, but they don't contain the power to fulfill the covenant. The true trigger for the covenant should be with my future self. What do you mean? It's like, if I borrowed 10 taels of silver from you today, promising to return it at noon tomorrow, I would write you an IOU. But before noon tomorrow, you don't actually have the 10 taels of silver, only an IOU, while the real silver is still with me. Only when the appointed time comes will my silver come to you, and similarly, the IOU will be torn up. Does that make sense to you? Chloe tried to explain in simple terms. I see, Lin Chia nodded. He had always thought that the power to travel across 2,000 years was stored in that vanished mark. Now it seemed that was just a medium, and the one truly accomplishing this feat was the future Chloe. Then how did you send me back 2,000 years? That's something even the god of time would find difficult to achieve. Once a sacred covenant is established, it will inevitably be fulfilled. No matter how difficult the process, various factors will help realize it. Using that example again, if I borrowed 10 taels of silver from you, promising to return it at noon tomorrow, even if I had no means of earning silver, it would somehow find its way into my purse. The specific process might be a thief suddenly tripping beside me, dropping the 10 taels of silver he just stole in front of me. Or perhaps a bird carrying a hairpin worth 10 taels of silver suddenly dropping it into my hand, and at that moment someone happens to come by this hairpin. Lin Chia's mouth gradually opened wider. Once promised, it will inevitably be fulfilled. So that's what it means? Lin Chia had always thought that the description of Chloe's ability was just some special embellishment. He didn't expect it to be so hardcore, achieving the goal through any unimaginable method. Wasn't that similar to having fortune on your side, making wishes come true? So you're saying that with a sacred covenant, anything can be accomplished. Then why doesn't your future self simply establish a sacred covenant to directly destroy the Cthulhu gods? I don't know what kind of existence these Cthulhu gods you speak of are, but there's no doubt that the covenant also has its limitations. Chloe said seriously, first, the covenant can only affect those who enter into it and cannot extend to third parties. For example, borrowing and returning 10 taels of silver is an agreement between you and me. No matter how things develop in this process, it will only revolve around the two of us. But if I make a covenant with you to have Zhang San return 10 taels of silver to you by noon tomorrow, it won't work, because Zhang San is not part of this covenant. Similarly, I cannot make a covenant with you to determine the life or death of another person or race, unless I personally sign a covenant with them for their self-destruction, but they would never agree to that. Besides this, triggering a covenant requires consuming a large amount of faith. I don't know the content of the other two covenants, but just this one covenant that crosses 2,000 years to return to the past requires an extremely terrifying amount of faith power. Just for this one covenant, I might need to spend hundreds of years collecting faith before it becomes possible to send you back at some point in the future. Lin Chia fell into deep thought. The covenant could only affect those who entered into it, and activating the covenant required faith power as consumption. No wonder Yuran chose Chloe as his agent. This legendary 001 was indeed infinitely close to omnipotence. But without faith power as support, it would be difficult to unleash its powerful strength. Chloe's special constitution, which could unconsciously make surrounding creatures believe in her, could perfectly complement this ability. To unleash stronger power from the covenant, It was necessary to establish a massive religion to provide continuous faith for Urand and Chloe. The Western Holy Church was probably born for this reason. But in this era the Holy Church seemed to have not yet appeared, which meant that Urand's power had not yet reached its peak level, and naturally, it would be impossible to seal the Cthulhu gods. Then how can I go back? I don't know, Chloe replied helplessly. This covenant is only responsible for sending you here. How you get back is not its concern. I should tell you in advance, I currently don't have enough faith to send you back 2,000 years into the future. In this era, the only thing that might send you back is perhaps the second covenant. Lin Chia looked down at the second mark on his chest, his expression somewhat complicated. If what Chloe said was true, the covenant that sent him back 2,000 years required faith accumulated over hundreds of years. Even if the current Chloe could eventually send him back, it would be hundreds of years from now. His only hope now was that the content of the Second Covenant would be his return ticket from the Western Han Dynasty to modern times. The curfew is about to begin, you should go back now, Chloe said slowly. Lin Chia looked at the sky outside, which was almost completely dark. Those red stars hung high in the night sky, with one of them shining particularly brightly. You'll be staying in Chang'an for the next few days, right? Lin Chia asked. Yes, we'll head to the next place after the influence of those stars subsides. If you need anything, just come find me here. Lin Chia nodded and walked toward the door. After talking with Chloe, Lin Chia had figured out many things. His name appearing in the ancient Han Dynasty scroll in the Night Watchman's highest classified documents, future Chloe choosing him to enter the covenant, and the words Hu Tsubing said to him in the underground of the National Fate Island. All of these pointed to a connection between him and the Western Han Dynasty. However, Lin Chia hadn't figured out whether his actions in this period of history were predetermined. Would his actions be an inherent part of history, or would they directly change the course of the future? Was it the cause in the past that created the effect in the future, or was it the cause in the future that changed the effect in the past? The causal relationship between past and future was like a tangled mess of threads, making Lin Chia's head throb. But more questions continued to emerge in his mind. Why did the future Chloe go to such lengths, spending hundreds of years collecting faith, just to send him to the Western Han Dynasty? Was it related to those red stars? Or did she hope he would change something in this era? Just as Lin Chia was pondering these questions, a series of shrill screams suddenly broke the silence, echoing under the sky of Chang'an. Lin Chia turned to look and saw that near the city gate of Chang'an, a large fire had already started burning fiercely. The towering flames illuminated the night sky, and screams continuously rang out from within the city. What happened? Did evil spirits attack the city? Lin Chia frowned and, ignoring the curfew rules, transformed into a blur as he rushed toward the direction of the fire. With Lin Chia's speed, crossing half of Chang'an was a matter of seconds. The wind howled past his ears, and soon he saw two groups of soldiers fiercely fighting in front of the raging flames. The two groups were dressed differently. One group Lin Chia recognized as members of the 30,000-strong expedition army that had returned to Chang'an with Hu Tsubing. The other group wore specialized armor, appearing to be the Yulin army stationed in Chang'an. At this city gate, the expedition army far outnumbered the Yulin army. They each held weapons, swarming through the city gate, staring intently at the Yulin soldiers moving across the battlefield. With bloodshot eyes, they roared and mercilessly took the lives of the Yulin soldiers. One Yulin soldier's corpse after another fell, and blood immediately stained a corner of Chang'an red. Their defense line was torn open in several places by the expedition army, and they retreated step by step. A large number of expedition soldiers had already successfully broken into the city and were rushing into Chang'an. Unlike the angry expressions of the expedition army, these Yulin soldiers' faces were full of bewilderment and terror. They seemed unable to understand, no matter how hard they tried, why the expedition army would suddenly attack the city. Seeing this, Lin Chia frowned deeply. He directly crashed into the battlefield and grabbed a long spear from an expedition soldier with his bare hands. Lin Chia recognized this soldier. When he was escorting the army back to Chang'an at the rear, the man had spoken to him a few times. In Lin Chia's impression, he was a rather quiet man, but now he looked as if he had gone berserk, his expression extremely ferocious. "What are you doing? Who ordered you to rebel?" Lin Chia asked sternly. "Rebel? Lord Lin, we're not rebelling." The soldier widened his eyes. He stretched out his blood-covered hand, pointing at Chang'an City behind Lin Chia. "Lord Lin, quick, get behind us. Beware of the Yulin army and the people in Chang'an. They have all been replaced by monsters. They are not human at all." Lin Chia stood frozen in place. "What did you say?" "Fake. They are all fake." The soldier, with hands covered in blood, grabbed Lin Chia's wrist, trying to pull him behind himself, while his other hand swung his weapon fiercely, cutting off the head of a Yulin guard. The Yulin guard, with rounded eyes wide open, had his head roll to Lin Chia's feet, blood staining the ground red. "Why do you say they are fake?" Lin Chia asked with furrowed brows. "Can't you see?" The soldier stretched out his hand, pointing at the corpse of the Yulin guard on the ground. "See what? He's transformed from a monster. The same kind we saw in the mountain ravine, those willow branch-like monsters." As he finished speaking, the soldier stomped violently on the Yulin guard's corpse. Even after the corpse was completely mutilated, Lin Chia still couldn't see any resemblance to the Cthulhu-type monster. Just as he was about to speak, several roars came from behind. "Kill all these monsters. Chang'an cannot fall into the hands of monsters. Die protecting His Majesty. The Marquis is still in the palace. Rescue the Marquis. Monsters. Chang'an City is full of monsters." Dense shadows broke through the Yulin Guard's defense line, rushing into Chang'an City amid blood and fire, like a pack of bloodthirsty wolves. Several soldiers charged into the city, and terrified screams came from houses in the neighborhood. They suddenly turned their heads. There are monster sounds there too. They rushed to the door, kicked it open, and the screams inside became more chaotic. Several civilians were huddled in the house, faces pale, with the cries of infants echoing through the street. The soldiers, holding blood-stained weapons, widened their eyes and laughed. "You think by wearing these skins I won't recognize you? Quick! There are several more here." Several soldiers rushed into the house, blood splattered, and the candles inside fell to the ground during the chaos, igniting a fierce fire. The shrill screams and pleas gradually stopped. Blood-covered soldiers dragged several corpses out, with hideous bloody marks trailing on the ground, reflecting a heart-stopping crimson in the firelight. "Don't kill me! Don't kill me!" Hearing the commotion next door, a middle-aged man ran out of his house in terror. Seeing these blood-covered figures, his face turned pale with fear and he turned to run away. The next moment, a figure on horseback swept past the street. A cold spear swept by and the man's head flew high. "I killed another one." The soldier impaled the head on his spear, raised it high and shouted with his head held high. Screams rose and fell throughout Chang'an. As the 30,000 troops rushed into the city, the entire city was stained with a layer of blood, still spreading in all directions at an alarming rate. "Have you gone mad? Where are these replacement monsters?" Seeing this scene, Lin Chia angrily gripped the soldier's throat, then stomped his right foot on the ground. The ground within several li instantly shattered, and a wave of air knocked all the surrounding troops to the ground. "Open your eyes wide. They are just ordinary people. There are no monsters at all." The soldier was lifted by Lin Chia's single hand, like a powerless chick, but his eyes stared fixedly at Lin Chia. After a moment he spoke in terror. "Monster! You're also a monster. The real Master Lin was killed by you in the smoke of the ravine. You're the monster that replaced him." Lin Chia's brows furrowed deeper. Kill him. Avenge the real Master Lin. With his angry roar, more than 10 nearby soldiers who had been knocked down suddenly stood up and swung their blades without hesitation toward Lin Chia's neck. Lin Chia's gaze focused, a wave of killing intent surged out, and a sword light flashed in an arc around him. The soldiers' movements instantly froze in midair. A fine red line appeared at their waists. Under their astonished gaze, their upper bodies neatly fell from the smooth cut, hitting the ground with a thud. Blood flowed, and the next moment their corpses suddenly blurred, turning into strange willow branches, writhing on the ground for a moment before gradually becoming still. Lin Chia's pupils contracted slightly. These willow branches were almost identical to the monster bodies that appeared after he killed his own counterfeit in the smoke, except that the willow branch that had copied him then also had an eyeball on it. So, these soldiers had all been replaced in that colorful smoke? But Lin Chia clearly remembered that on the way back he had conversed with these soldiers and their habits, expressions and even memories were completely the same as before, not at all like they had been replaced. You actually killed them. You actually killed them. I'll kill you. I must kill you. The soldier held in midair by Lin Chia, having witnessed the others being killed, was furious beyond measure. Lin Chia turned to look at the soldier in his hand, pointed his head toward those willow branches that had reverted to their original form and shouted, "Open your eyes and see clearly. These are the monsters. They are not monsters. Those are the monsters. You are the monster." The soldier struggled to stretch out his hand, pointing at the civilians being slaughtered in the street and at Lin Chia in front of him, shouting hysterically, "I will kill you all." Poof. Lin Chia's hand suddenly exerted force, instantly crushing his throat. The latter's head drooped limply, and moments later his form transformed into a thick willow branch, swaying silently in the wind. Lin Chia's expression was extremely grim. In his mind suddenly appeared the angry gaze of his counterfeit when he killed it in the ravine. Fake. You are the fake. You this counterfeit created by Cthulhu. You can never replace. At that time Lin Chia found it strange. If it was truly disguised as himself trying to replace him, why did its tone and expression seem so genuine until the very end? It seemed as if it really was himself lying on the ground, roaring in fury at the counterfeit about to replace his identity. People replaced in that smoke retain all the memories and thought patterns of the original, and even completely believe themselves to be that person? Lin Chia murmured. If that's the case, it's not remarkable that a counterfeit can perfectly disguise itself as the genuine article, but if even the counterfeit itself believes it is real, then things become problematic, because this means it could never reveal the slightest flaw. Unless one kills a person with their own hands and sees their corpse, it's almost impossible to distinguish whether they are real or a counterfeit replaced by willow branches. But now the question is, how many of the 30,000 troops that were enveloped in smoke have been replaced? Lin Chia's gaze swept across the surroundings. Everywhere he looked were expedition forces engaged in frenzied killing. They trampled over the bodies of the Yulin army, charging into Chang'an City, stirring up waves of blood in this city shrouded in night. His heart immediately sank. Everywhere his gaze reached, all expedition soldiers were burning and killing civilians on Chang'an's streets, which meant that all ordinary people who had encountered the colorful smoke had been silently replaced. And in their perception, although the concept of being replaced by monsters existed strangely, their understanding of what constituted a monster seemed to have been artificially tampered with. In the monsters' eyes, ordinary people were the replaced monsters, while they considered the willow branches that appeared after their deaths to be normal symbols. It was as if an invisible hand was arbitrarily manipulating their perception. If Lin Chia's guess wasn't wrong, the reason they suddenly felt that everyone in the city had been replaced by monsters, leading them to break into the city, was also due to the guidance of that mysterious manipulator. Lin Chia looked up at the brilliantly shining red star, his eyes narrowing slightly. It's you. What's happening outside? Chloe heard the commotion in the distance and frowned as she looked out the window. I don't know. It seems like someone is rebelling, a missionary said uncertainly. Probably another power struggle. The Han people love these political schemes, but it shouldn't concern us. As they were speaking, several figures on horseback galloped from the end of the street. They held torches in one hand and blood-soaked spears in the other, their eyes full of ferocity. Burn. Only by burning everything will those monsters come out. At the command of the leader, the people behind began throwing torches to both sides of the road. As flames rose, cries of alarm came from the houses. Fire! Fire! A woman hurriedly opened her door to get water to extinguish the fire, when a cold flash swept down, and her head instantly rolled to the ground. Blood splattered everywhere as the headless body swayed and collapsed. A man ran out of the house with a cry of alarm, but before he could say anything, another cold flash passed and he died on the spot. Seeing this, Chloe, who was on the second floor, frowned, her expression turning grim. This is a power struggle. This is clearly wanton slaughter. Chloe watched as the group of horsemen struck down several innocent civilians fleeing from their homes, her fists tightly clenched. Mother! Mother! Several young children walked out of the house in confusion. Seeing the piled bodies on the ground and the blood-covered soldiers, they froze in terror. The soldier narrowed his eyes, snorted coldly, and was about to swing his spear when a ball of intense fire suddenly erupted from the second floor, engulfing him completely. Piercing screams echoed through the street as a red-haired girl wearing a conical hat jumped down from the second-floor window. Her eyes coldly regarded the soldiers before her, a murderous intent permeating the air. Chloe raised her palm and swept it through the air, sending a burning wind blade howling down the street for hundreds of meters, instantly killing all the soldiers on the road. One by one, burning remains fell to the ground, transforming into charred willow branches moments later. Seeing these willow branches, Chloe's eyes narrowed slightly. Holy Maiden, they weren't human? Were they evil spirits? Exclaimed a missionary as he picked up a broken willow branch. Another missionary sniffed the air. They don't smell like evil spirits. This odor is far worse than evil spirits. Then what could they be? Chloe shifted her gaze from the willow branches as the ground beneath her feet suddenly rumbled and shook, as if an ancient beast was frantically trampling the earth. An invisible shockwave erupted from a distant street, sending hundreds of soldiers flying into the sky. Is it him? Chloe murmured. She immediately stepped forward, a whirlwind lifting her body into the sky, her flame-like red hair dancing wildly in the night. Looking down at the other missionaries, she said, "Something isn't right. You all return to the inn first, I'll go check it out." With those words, Chloe rode the whirlwind, howling toward the direction of the explosion. Lin Chia killed hundreds of soldiers with one punch, reducing a corner of Chang'an to ruins. From the swirling dust, his figure slowly emerged. Without my forbidden domain, this is troublesome. Lin Chia looked at his fist and sighed helplessly. With his current strength, if he were in an open space, killing thousands with one punch wouldn't be difficult. But now he was inside Chang'an City. If he used his full power here, it would cause massive indiscriminate destruction, and one punch could leave countless Chang'an civilians homeless. Strong physical power certainly brought significant combat enhancement, but without abilities to complement it, he was still at a disadvantage. Lin Chia looked up at the sky and a pale green progress bar flashed by. Lin Chia healing progress, 48%. Just 2% more. Lin Chia withdrew his gaze and was about to continue killing these monsters when a red-haired figure slowly descended from the sky. Are you trying to demolish all of Chang'an? Chloe couldn't help but quip. I have no choice. Lin Chia shrugged. My forbidden domain hasn't awakened yet, so I can only fight with physical strength. This isn't even awakened yet? Chloe pointed at the absurdly large ruins before them. Causing this level of damage with bare hands. Are you really human? Lin Chia smiled helplessly without responding. What are these things? I'm not entirely sure, but they're probably related to the ability of some K-system god, connected to the meteor earlier. Lin Chia briefly explained his findings, causing Chloe's brow to furrow deeply. So, we need to kill all these fake expedition forces? Yes. Good, leave them to me, Chloe nodded. Besides them, has anyone else in Chang'an been replaced? Lin Chia opened his mouth, hesitated for a moment, then shook his head. I'm not certain. After that meteor fell, the entire valley was enveloped in colorful smoke. Besides the expedition forces here, many commanders had already entered the imperial palace. Thinking of this, Lin Chia turned around to look toward the palace walls in the distance. This is bad, he murmured. Palace. In the imperial garden. A gentle breeze swept through the pavilion as Hu Xubing picked up a chess piece and slowly placed it on the board. I understand your meaning, Emperor Wu of Han said while making his move. With supernatural evils running rampant across the empire, we indeed need an agency to suppress these disturbances. I approve the establishment of the Demon Suppression Bureau. Hearing this answer, Hu Xubing's expression relaxed slightly. After a moment of silence, he spoke again. Your Majesty, regarding the Demon Suppression Bureau, I have one more request for your approval. What is it? I hope that the Demon Suppression Bureau can operate independently from court politics, not subject to anyone's command except the bureau chief alone. Emperor Wu's hand paused as he was about to place a piece, his brows furrowing. Not even me? Not even you, Hu Xubing stated firmly. Emperor Wu frowned, staring at him for a long time before throwing the chess piece back into the container and speaking coldly. Champion Marquis, do you realize what you're saying? I do. Hu Xubing took a deep breath. Your Majesty, the Demon Suppression Bureau exists to suppress supernatural evils. Its members will all be supernatural practitioners whose powers far exceed what ordinary people can imagine. Such an agency composed of supernatural practitioners is destined to possess enough power to change the Han dynasty, or even the fate of the entire world. Your Majesty is wise and virtuous. If the Bureau were under your command, I would have no concerns. But what happens when your Majesty is no longer with us? Hu Xubing's voice was solemn. He knew what he was saying was absolutely treasonous, and judging by Emperor Wu's expression, it wasn't being well received. But some things needed to be said. Can your Majesty guarantee that all your descendants will be as wise and righteous as you? If your Majesty sets the precedent that emperors can freely command the Demon Suppression Bureau, will future emperors resist using such a force capable of changing the world? If one day the court falls into chaos, with treacherous ministers colluding with princes as in the past Nine Dragons Succession War, the Demon Suppression Bureau will eventually be drawn into court politics, manipulated by those with evil intentions. When that happens, the world will surely fall into chaos. Emperor Wu sat with a stern face, deep in thought. Essentially, a Demon Suppression Bureau with numerous supernatural practitioners like Hu Xubing, Zhang Yuwu, and Yan Zhong was no different from nuclear weapons. And once nuclear weapons appear in the process of power transition held by one faction, it would be a disaster. Hu Xubing absolutely did not want the Demon Suppression Bureau he established to become a tool for power struggles in the future. Emperor Wu continued to frown in contemplation, showing no sign of agreement. He could allow Hu Xubing to establish the Demon Suppression Bureau to eliminate supernatural evils for the Han dynasty, but as an emperor he didn't want any force beyond his control to exist, especially one with potential to threaten his throne. Your Majesty, terrible news. Just as Emperor Wu began to speak, a figure hurriedly ran over from the distance. It was the eunuch Li who had earlier escorted Hu Xubing. What is it? Emperor Wu's expression showed displeasure. Outside the city, the expeditionary force left by the Marquis has forced its way into Chang'an. What? Hearing this, Emperor Wu's face changed dramatically. He turned sharply toward Hu Xubing and spoke ominously. Hu Xubing, are you attempting rebellion? I have absolutely no such intention. Hu Xubing immediately responded, his eyes also filled with confusion. Your Majesty, those who charged and don't seem human. After they died, they all turned into willow branches that still move. They were shouting something about Chang'an being full of monsters. The Yulin Guard outside the city has been completely annihilated. Your Majesty, what should we do? Transformed from willow branches? Emperor Wu's expression changed repeatedly. Could it be some kind of supernatural evil? Your Majesty, I will resolve this matter. Hu Xubing stood up from his seat, his face extremely serious. Please return to the palace. Within half a day I will quell the disturbance in Chang'an. Emperor Wu looked at him, his expression somewhat complex, but eventually nodded. Very well. Hu Xubing personally escorted Emperor Wu back to the palace, then turned to leave. Zhang Yuwu and others who had been waiting outside the imperial garden quickly followed, their faces equally grave. Marquis, I heard there's trouble outside the palace? Zhang Yuwu asked in a deep voice. Yes, they say our people who returned have suddenly attacked Chang'an and transformed into willow branches. It must be the work of that mist we encountered at dawn. Hu Xubing walked while thinking. The urgent priority is to first. Thud. Before Hu Xubing could finish, a sharp blade tip burst through his chest. His body suddenly froze in place. Blood stained the blade tip, dripping onto the ground. Hu Xubing turned his head in shock to see Zhang Yuwu gripping the curved sword, his eyes flashing with cold intent. Zhang Yuwu. Stop pretending. Zhang Yuwu's hand gripped the sword hilt tighter, a dark energy permeating the blade as he spoke coldly. Did you really think you could fool us? You monster. Where have you hidden the real Marquis? Whoosh. A crescent-shaped blade light slashed through Hu Xubing's body. Blood sprayed out, instantly staining the stone path before the palace wall. The next moment, the tall palace wall was also shattered by the crescent, a section collapsing with a rumble. Hu Xubing's figure darted out from the dust cloud, a sword cut nearly splitting him in half. His eyes flashed with a gleam as his left hand rose, summoning a black shadow from nowhere, like a black flag, tightly binding the gaping wound in his flesh. The true form of Emperor's manipulator was quite fragile, and he had no defenses against Zhang Yuwu and the others. Zhang Yuwu's strike was too fast. At such close range, even he couldn't react in time. He barely stabilized himself, looking at Zhang Yuwu and the four stern-faced commanders before him, his face extremely grim. If he hadn't been wearing the dark brocade garment, under his armor, Zhang Yuwu's life-extinguishing moon flash would have seriously wounded him. He never expected Zhang Yuwu to attack him. Have you all gone mad? Mad? Zhang Yuwu shook his head. I know exactly what I'm doing. Only by killing you, the counterfeit, can we save the real Marquis. As his words fell, the curved sword in Zhang Yuwu's hand once again gleamed with dark light. The four commanders behind him moved simultaneously, attacking Hu Xubing from different directions. Seeing the five had killing intent, Hu Xubing's expression grew fierce. His gaze swept over the five, contemplating something. Chang'an City. Leave these guys to me, you go deal with the other imposters. Chloe's gaze swept across the devastated ruins. Countless soldiers continued to frantically pour into various streets, the flames illuminating the pitch-black night sky as bright as day. These 30,000 men are scattered throughout Chang'an's streets. Can you handle it alone? Lin Chia frowned and asked. Chloe glanced at him, her fiery red hair gently swaying in the wind, and smiled lightly. Just 30,000 people. Don't underestimate the messenger of the Holy Lord. Seeing this, Lin Chia said no more and darted rapidly toward the imperial palace. Chloe leaped lightly, floating down onto a broken eave among the ruins. Her gaze swept across the surroundings, where tens of thousands of imposter soldiers were rolling through Chang'an like a tidal wave. Chaotic screams and howls rose from all directions. Chloe took a deep breath, a glimmer flashing in her eyes as her fingertips slowly rose under the night sky. "Evening breeze, please kill." As her words fell, the air at her fingertips suddenly distorted. A wind blade, no more than a millimeter thick, shot through the night sky with a piercing screech. This wind blade swept across the street, instantly splitting into 2, then 4, then 8. They divided at an astonishing speed under the night sky, thin and transparent. Even after splitting into thousands upon thousands, they remained completely invisible to the naked eye. These wind blades seemed to have eyes, scattering in all directions in midair. The piercing screech immediately attracted the attention of everyone in the city. "What is that?" A soldier holding a torch suddenly looked up at the sky, but saw nothing except the vast darkness of night. "There are some little monsters running that way. Stop them." Hundreds of meters away, another soldier struck down a man desperately resisting, then suddenly shouted. While the man held back the soldier, several children terrified rushed out of the burning house, crying and fleeing toward the other side of the street. The soldier with the torch narrowed his eyes. He casually threw the torch into the house beside him, drew his sword and stared at the sobbing children fleeing toward him, charging forward quickly. Whoosh! A shrill sound exploded from behind him, instantly moving from his back to his front, gradually fading away. The soldier stopped in confusion, about to turn his head to look back, but his vision uncontrollably shifted downward, until he finally fell to the ground with a thud. As his consciousness gradually halted, one eye blocked by the ground, the other saw a headless body holding a sword, standing motionless. "Is that me?" The moment this thought appeared in his mind, his pupils completely dilated. The headless corpse stood frozen for a moment before stiffly collapsing to the ground. The children frantically fleeing witnessed this scene and froze in place. The shrill sound swept past their ears, and the next moment the head of the soldier behind them also flew high, rolling down with a thud. Everything happened too quickly. In less than 2 seconds, a single wind blade swept through miles of streets, and the heads of hundreds of soldiers rose one after another, like crimson dandelions, carried up to the sky by the gentle evening breeze. And this scene played out on every street in Chang'an. 30,000 troops, annihilated in an instant. At that moment, in front of the highest palace in the imperial complex, a figure draped in imperial robes watched the crimson dandelions flying throughout the city, his eyes slightly contracting. Emperor Wu of Han stood before the hall, silent for a long time, his expression somewhat complex. "Li Ying. This old servant is here." Li Gongong immediately stepped forward, bowing respectfully. "Tell me, in this world can someone truly possess such miraculous power?" Li Gongong was stunned for a moment, then slowly spoke. "Whether someone can possess miraculous power, this old servant does not know. This old servant only knows that to restrain a pack of fierce wolves, one must let a wolf king emerge among them." Emperor Wu of Han looked at Chang'an City shrouded in blood and fire before him, his brows tightly furrowed. Lin Chia swiftly passed through the streets, the vermilion palace walls gradually approaching before his eyes. Just then a familiar voice came from the side. "Brother Chia." Lin Chia quickly stopped and looked back to see Wu Quan hurriedly running from the other side of the street. Upon seeing Wu Quan, Lin Chia's first reaction was to step back half a pace and ask with furrowed brows. "Why are you here?" "We were waiting for you at the dance pavilion having tea. Seeing curfew approaching, we found a place to stay, but suddenly chaos erupted outside." Wu Quan spoke with a grave expression. "I flew up to get a better view and happened to see Brother Chia heading toward the palace gate, so I rushed over to meet you. Where's Yan Zhong?" After seeing the armor of those murderous soldiers, his expression suddenly changed and he rushed out in a hurry. "I don't know where he went." Looking at the calmly narrating Wu Quan before him, Lin Chia not only didn't relax his vigilance but began to examine him carefully. From what he understood, Even the imposters replaced by the smoke would think and act like real people with almost no flaws. Moreover, it seemed the Red Star could control their actions by modifying the imposters' perceptions. The 30,000 troops outside were exactly like this. During the day, everything seemed normal, but when the Red Star's light shone at night, they began to see ordinary people as monsters and slaughtered their way into the city. Now their true nature could be easily judged by their behavior, but the Wu Quan before him was different. Wu Quan had also been enveloped by the phantom smoke. Although he hadn't shown any extreme behavior yet, this alone wasn't enough to eliminate suspicion. In other words, unless he stabbed Wu Quan in the heart right now, turning him into a corpse, it would be difficult to determine whether the young man before him was Wu Quan or a creature that had replaced him. Brother Chia? Wu Quan noticed Lin Chia's strange expression and asked puzzledly, "What's wrong? In your eyes, what am I?" Hearing this question, Wu Quan's eyes filled with confusion. He hesitated for a moment before uncertainly replying, "You are, Director Lin, Senior. Brother. I mean, do you see me as a human or a K-system creature?" "Brother Chia, what are you talking about? How could you be a K-system creature? Didn't your imposter already die?" Lin Chia's expression relaxed somewhat, though he didn't completely drop his guard. He didn't know if the Red Star could arbitrarily control the imposter's perceptions. What if Wu Quan's current response was a disguise? Or what if the imposter Wu Quan's perception would only be modified after some time? Nothing. Lin Chia pondered for a moment. "I need to go inside the Imperial Palace. Come with me." "All right." Wu Quan agreed without any hesitation. Lin Chia certainly couldn't just kill Wu Quan. If he killed an imposter, that would be fine, but if he killed the real Wu Quan. In short, Lin Chia couldn't gamble with Wu Quan's life. The best approach now was to keep Wu Quan by his side. If he truly was an imposter, as long as Lin Chia occasionally revealed some vulnerabilities, he would eventually be unable to resist attacking. Compared to the chaotic Chang'an city, the Imperial Palace was unnaturally quiet. Lin Chia and Wu Quan stepped over a group of unconscious guards and entered the deathly silent palace. Except for the guards stationed near the palace walls, other palace residents seemed to be hiding indoors. Scattered candlelight emanated from the various palace buildings. Tonight, those within the inner palace would certainly remain sleepless. With all that chaos outside, why are there still so many guards here? Wu Quan frowned as he scanned the surroundings. These guards are the close protection for the emperor and the imperial family. Even if the sky were falling, they would have to defend the palace. After all, staying here allows them to use the terrain to their advantage against the rebels. If they rushed outside, it would be no different from suicide. They are the last line of defense for this dynasty. Wu Quan raised an eyebrow. So by knocking all these guards unconscious, does that make me a historical criminal who trampled the Western Han dynasty's final defense? It was an emergency and we don't have credentials to enter the palace. I believe the emperor will understand. Wu Quan nodded, then suddenly seemed to realize something. Brother Chia, it seems to have quieted down outside. Lin Chia looked back toward the palace walls. The previously noisy sounds of battle had disappeared, leaving only the rising sounds of wailing and crying. Surprise appeared in his eyes. How much time had passed? Chloe had acted too quickly. Just moments ago he was saying her physical strength wasn't human-like. Then she immediately went and eliminated 30,000 troops in an instant. TSK. Lin Chia's gaze swept across the silent palaces around them, his expression becoming serious. The imperial palace was so vast. Where should they look for Huotsubing? Boom. Just as Lin Chia was pondering this, a thunderous sound came from the distance. Billowing smoke rose from somewhere in the palace, and even the ground beneath their feet trembled slightly. Lin Chia frowned and immediately rushed toward the source of the sound. "Humph, you people think you can kill me?" From within the swirling dust, a figure in prisoner's clothes slowly emerged. Gong Yongwan, with disheveled hair and wearing shackles, cast a disdainful glance at the figures lying on the ground. Stir. A fallen soldier with a blood-covered face stared wide-eyed at the female prisoner, his eyes filled with unwillingness. But as a foot came down, his head was instantly crushed, blood splattering across the ground. Gong Yangwan, her body soaked in blood, frowned and was about to leave when two figures swooped down from above. Gong Yangwan. It's you. Seeing Lin Chia, Gong Yangwan instinctively stepped back. She glanced at the corpses around her, her expression turning unpleasant. Let me be clear, I didn't provoke them first. I was waiting here as the Marquis, as Hu Xubing instructed. These madmen suddenly started shouting about monsters and tried to kill me. This was self-defense, not disobeying orders. Gong Yangwan appeared somewhat nervous. Understandably so, since Hu Xubing had planted the heart-returning insect in her. If she were mistakenly thought to be killing people to escape, she would certainly die. Lin Chia didn't answer. His gaze fell on the numerous corpses at Gong Yangwan's feet. As a gentle breeze passed by, these corpses strangely melted into broken willow twigs, emitting a foul stench. K-system organisms? Wu Quan frowned tightly, covering his nose in disgust. Seeing Wu Quan's reaction, Lin Chia felt somewhat relieved. What is this? A broken willow twig happened to be resting on Gong Yangwan's ankle. Noticing the strange sensation, she looked down, confusion appearing between her brows. These are K-system organisms that fell to Earth with that meteor. Lin Chia slowly explained, sharing all the information he knew. When Lin Chia finished speaking, Gong Yangwan raised an eyebrow and spoke with surprise. These are the powerful alien organisms you mentioned? Gong Yangwan didn't seem repulsed by these disgusting-looking willow twigs. Instead, she actively reached down to pick up the twig at her feet and examined it closely. Being able to freely transform into the appearance of others. Sounds interesting. The cognition of these counterfeits can be arbitrarily altered by that crimson star, so even they themselves. Lin Chia continued to explain, but halfway through his sentence, Gong Yangwan opened her mouth and swallowed the broken willow twig in one gulp. What are you doing? Seeing this outrageous act, Lin Chia froze in shock, then rushed forward to grab Gong Yangwan's mouth, trying to reach in and pull out the twig. Beside them, Wu Quan opened his mouth in shock, seemingly connecting to some realization, his face turning ashen. His Adam's apple bobbed several times before he couldn't help but turn away and retch. Are you insane? This is a Cthulhu creature's remains. Not a supernatural object. Swallowing it recklessly will cause disaster. Lin Chia pinned down Gong Yangwan's struggling hands, trying to extract the twig, but it had already fallen into her body and couldn't be retrieved. He couldn't help but curse. Damn it! After all his dealings with Cthulhu entities, he'd never seen anyone dare to directly swallow K-system creature remains. These things carried traces of K-system contamination power. Whispering voices, mental disorders, madness and confusion. Swallowing a K-system creature? How was that any different from suicide? Gong Yangwan broke free from Lin Chia's grasp and stepped back, raising her head high. Beneath her disheveled black hair, her eyes shone brightly. Disaster? I crawled out of a pile of corpses to begin with. How many times have I risked my life just to survive? Rather than being someone's dog to command for a lifetime, why not take a gamble? If I can obtain their power, Hu Xubing will never control me again. Looking at the coldly laughing Gong Yangwan, Lin Chia's expression turned extremely grim. Just as he was about to say something, Gong Yangwan's shoulder suddenly began to writhe. Bang! With a muffled explosion, Gong Yangwan's entire left arm burst open, blood splattering across the ground as a black willow twig extended from the stump. Gong Yangwan groaned in pain while turning to look at where her left hand had been. At the end of the willow twig, a blister suddenly swelled up, and as a wrinkle-like crack appeared on its surface, an eerie eyeball slowly opened. Seeing this, a sharp light flashed in Lin Chia's eyes. With one hand he protected Wu Quan behind him. With the other he gently raised the broken Amanomurakumo sword, ready to strike. However, after the willow twig occupied Gong Yongwan's left arm, it didn't continue to grow. Gong Yongwan's groans gradually subsided, and pale-faced she looked at the willow twig in confusion. The end of the twig raised up, bringing the eyeball before Gong Yongwan's face as if staring at her. After a moment, the eyeball, like a part of Gong Yongwan's body, slowly scanned the surroundings according to her will. This is... Gong Yongwan's eyes grew increasingly bright. Have you gained control of it? Lin Chia asked in surprise, seeing that Gong Yongwan's body hadn't lost control. I knew I could do it. Gong Yongwan laughed loudly, but halfway through her laughter her expression froze on her face. No additional abilities? The heart-returning parasite hasn't disappeared either. Damn it! What use is this arm to me? Gong Yongwan had risked swallowing the willow branch hoping to gain Ku-system powers to escape Hua Tsubing's control, but now she not only gained no abilities but had directly turned into this neither human nor ghost monster. What was the point of her risk-taking? Gong Yongwan's expression changed repeatedly, but ultimately she composed herself and examined the disgusting willow branch arm again. If I lost the gamble, so be it. At least it looks intimidating enough. She snorted coldly. Gong Yongwan's powerful psychological resilience directly shocked Lin Chia and Wu Quan. If an ordinary person had staked their life on a gamble and only received a nauseating arm in return, they would likely have a mental breakdown on the spot. Yet she could quickly calm down and accept reality. Gong Yongwan was far stronger than Lin Chia had imagined, both in ability and mentality. Are you really not feeling unwell? Lin Chia asked with furrowed brows. Do you hear anyone speaking in your ear? Do you feel unusually irritable? Do you feel itchy, like something is trying to burrow out of you? No, Gong Yongwan impatiently waved her hand. Now Lin Chia was truly puzzled. He had encountered Cthulhu mythology so many times and had such close contact with Ku-system creatures, yet he had never seen a case without mutation. From the characteristics of the Ku-system, this was simply impossible. Moreover, the Gong Yongwan he had seen in modern society wasn't this bizarre figure before him. Perhaps she later used some method to hide this arm? Who are you people? Just as the three were talking, a shout came from the distance. Lin Chia turned around to see several armored figures, holding blood-stained weapons, rapidly approaching. Lin Chia frowned, about to say something, when Gong Yongwan beside him let out a soft exclamation. Strange. What is it? Why do they all have willow branches coiled inside their bodies? Gong Yongwan narrowed her eyes, pointing at the willow branch corpses below with her right hand. Just like these. Lin Chia was stunned momentarily, then as if realizing something, he suddenly looked at her eyeball-bearing willow branch arm. You can see their true forms? Lin Chia recognized those armors. They should belong to the expedition soldiers who entered the palace with the marquis. If those outside were imitations, then these approaching figures were very likely imitations too, and Gong Yongwan could see their true forms at a glance. Could this be the ability she gained after swallowing the willow branch? Wu Quan, Lin Chia spoke. Yes. Wu Quan raised his hand and several fallen weapons immediately flew out, directly piercing the bodies of the charging soldiers. Amid wails of agony, they fell to the ground one after another and moments later, indeed transformed into willow branches. Seeing this, Lin Chia's eyes immediately brightened. The biggest problem now was that they couldn't distinguish between real people and substituted imitations. Now that those substituted ordinary people had been killed by Chloe, what about the others? Zhan Yuwu, Yan Zhong, Wu Quan, even Hua Tsubing, how could they determine who was real and who was fake? But since Gong Yongwan had coincidentally gained this ability, all difficulties would be easily resolved. This would be their hope for breaking the deadlock. At this moment, Gong Yongwan also seemed to realize her special ability. She turned to look at the ugly willow branch arm, her eyes slightly narrowed. Interesting. She turned to Lin Chia, a hint of a smile on her lips. It seems I'm now the only one who can distinguish between real and fake. So, can we discuss terms? What terms do you want to discuss? I'll help you identify all the fake monsters and Hua Tsubing removes the heart-returning parasite from me. How about that? I can't make that decision for the Marquis, Lin Chia paused. However, I can try to persuade him, though I can't guarantee the result. Of course, if you render great service to the Han dynasty this time, I think with the Marquis's fair character he shouldn't refuse. Deal. Lin Chia nodded, then added after a moment, don't try to be clever during identification. Whether what you say is true or false, the corpses will prove it. If I discover your confusing truth and falsehood, I'll be the first to kill you. Rest assured I wouldn't stoop to doing such things, Gong Yongwan calmly replied. Lin Chia was about to leave when his foot suddenly paused in midair. After hesitating for a moment, he pointed to Wu Quan behind him. He's not an imitation, right? Gong Yongwan turned to look at Wu Quan, the eye at the end of the willow branch staring directly at him. Her eyes narrowed slightly and after a moment she nodded. No, he isn't. Outside the Imperial Palace. Holy Maiden, you've finally returned. In the post station, seeing the familiar figure return, the missionaries rose to their feet, their faces showing delight. Holy Maiden, are you injured? What are you saying? The maiden is the Holy Lord's messenger. How could she be injured? Holy Maiden, have all those rebel soldiers outside been killed? Chloe walked into the room surrounded by missionaries, nodding slightly. Yes, all dealt with. She sat down on a wooden chair by the window, letting out a long breath. Since leaving the Holy Lord's side to spread teachings in the mortal world, this was the first time she had killed so many people. Although she knew they were all imitations transformed from monsters, she still felt somewhat uncomfortable. A missionary brought a basin of hot water for Chloe, gently placing it beside her. As he rose to say something, his peripheral vision caught something outside the window and he froze. Holy Maiden, what is that? Chloe raised an eyebrow and looked in the direction he was pointing. Under the dim sky, a large mass of hazy mist was slowly approaching from the wilderness outside Chang'an City. The mist was vast in range, appearing like colorful auspicious clouds under the night sky, illuminating the pitch-black night with phantasmal colors. Countless commoners who had survived the disaster stopped to watch this sight, kneeling down in worship as if witnessing a divine miracle. That is, Chloe's pupils contracted slightly. Forbidden Palace. Lin Chia, Gong Yongwan, and Wu Quan's three figures moved continuously through the scattered palace buildings. In this vast imperial palace, finding Hua Tsubing was not an easy task, especially since they occasionally needed to stop and kill some overlooked counterfeits. The three searched for a long time but couldn't find any trace of Hua Tsubing. Have you seen the Marquis since entering the palace? Lin Chia asked. Yes, but only when we first arrived, Gong Yongwan nodded. He wanted to bring me to see the emperor, so he ordered people to put shackles on me and lock me in a prisoner cart, then brought me into the palace. He held the heart-returning parasite in his hand, and with just a thought from him I couldn't escape at all. There was no need for such a big show. It was just for the emperor and others to see. After entering the palace, you just waited in front of that hall? Yes, it seemed the emperor was meeting with others, so I was left there. He said someone would come to bring me in shortly, but until now no one has come. Lin Chia frowned, deep in thought. Hua Tsubing bringing Gong Yongwan into the palace was most likely to propose establishing the Demon Suppression Bureau. However, so much time had passed and the Marquis shouldn't have forgotten about Gong Yongwan. Could something have happened to him? Or perhaps even Hua Tsubing had been replaced. That shouldn't be possible. Hua Tsubing was the pinnacle of human capability and possessed Emperor's dominion. Even if that mist could create an identical copy of the champion Marquis, killing and replacing him silently in such a short time would be virtually impossible. Is it possible the Marquis is no longer in the palace? Wu Quan suddenly spoke up. With such major events happening outside, he should be aware of them. What if he's already gone outside the palace? Yes, we can't rule out that possibility. While pondering this, Lin Chia's peripheral vision swept across the surroundings, and he suddenly froze in place. What's wrong? Gong Yongwan frowned, seeing Lin Chia stop abruptly. Lin Chia didn't speak. He extended his hand and pointed to the distance. The two followed his gaze and saw that not far away under the night sky, a section of the palace wall had collapsed. By the flickering firelight nearby, they could see a pool of crimson blood staining the ground. There was a fight here? It's life-extinguishing moon flash, Lin Chia said gravely, staring at the savage blade marks on the ground. Only life-extinguishing moon flash could cause damage in this pattern. Zhang Yu? Who was he fighting? Lin Chia remained silent. He walked to the collapsed ruins and through the gap in the palace wall, could see the devastated Chang'an city under the night sky. It seems something has indeed happened to the mark, Lin Chia murmured. Look, the sky over there, why is it changing color? Just then Wu Quan suddenly spoke up, pointing at the sky beyond the city wall as if he had discovered something. Lin Chia looked in that direction, and when he clearly saw the approaching prismatic mist beyond the city wall, his pupils contracted violently. That thing can move on its own? Lin Chia certainly remembered that prismatic mist. The current state of Chang'an was entirely due to it. He had planned to wait until the chaos in Chang'an subsided before personally visiting the ravine to see what that mist was all about, but he never expected it could move to Chang'an on its own. This is bad. Lin Chia's mind raced as his legs pushed off with force, his figure shooting across Chang'an's sky like a cannonball, flying straight toward the edge of the city wall. The prismatic mist's coverage area was vast. Back in the ravine, it had easily enveloped an army of 30,000 and silently created identical counterfeits in an extremely short time. If that thing were to cover the entire city of Chang'an, this most prosperous and central imperial capital of the Han dynasty would be completely replaced by counterfeits, possibly even becoming a nest for clone system creatures. Gong Yongwan and Wu Quan also realized the severity of the situation and followed closely behind. Lin Chia's figure tore through the wind, the prismatic sky rapidly expanding before his eyes. He traced a long arc through the air, finally crashing down in front of Chang'an's city wall, creating a deep crater with a radius of dozens of meters. Amidst the flying debris, Lin Chia's eyes locked onto the prismatic mist. It was less than 10 miles from Chang'an and the mist was moving quickly. By his estimation, it would take no more than 10 minutes for the mist to pass through the city wall and enter Chang'an. Lin Chia. A voice came from atop the city wall. Hearing this voice, Lin Chia's eyes brightened slightly. He turned to look and saw that Hu Tsubing had also arrived before this mist. He had removed his original armor and was wearing a black marquis robe, holding a long spear, his expression extremely grave. Marquis, are you all right? I've sustained some injuries, but it's nothing. Hu Tsubing shook his head. The urgent matter now is to stop this mist from entering the city, or it will surely throw the world into chaos. But this mist is very strange. Lin Chia, are you willing to go with me? Lin Chia stared at Hu Tsubing's figure under the night sky, opened his mouth but didn't answer. He couldn't determine whether the current Hu Tsubing was a counterfeit, so naturally he couldn't directly agree to join forces with him. Lin Chia? You're here too. At the same time, another figure flew in from the distance. Hearing this voice, Lin Chia's body suddenly trembled. He turned around in astonishment to see another Hu Tsubing, wearing blood-stained armor and holding a long spear, arriving at his side. Lin Chia's mouth opened slightly, his expression immediately turning grim. Two Hu Tsubings. At such a critical moment, he had considered the possibility that Hu Tsubing might have been copied by that mist. After all, Emperor's dominion, though powerful, was not unique in this world. Back then, his own counterfeit in the mist could even roughly imitate the primordial spirit embryo, so copying a human's forbidden domain shouldn't be difficult for it. But until now, Lin Chia had only been considering whether Hua Tsubing might have been replaced. After all, since leaving the ravine, no second Hua Tsubing had appeared. He never imagined that this time the mist would change its approach, going from impersonation to presenting a choose one of two scenario. So the prismatic mist hadn't failed to copy Hua Tsubing back then. After copying him, it simply hadn't tried to replace him, because even it couldn't silently kill the real Hua Tsubing in a short time. So it had kept the copy hidden in the mist until it reached Chang'an's outskirts, and only then revealed the counterfeit? With the prismatic mist approaching the city and two Emperor's Dominion wielders appearing simultaneously. In the past, this would have been an extremely difficult choice, but fortunately they now had another trump card. Lin Chia turned his head to see two streaks of light cutting across the night sky, landing behind him. Gong Yongwan saw the two Hua Cubings, was startled for a moment, then the corners of her mouth curved slightly upward. It seems that I, the Marquis, have also been targeted. On top of the city wall, Hua Tsubing, wearing a robe, stared at another version of himself not far away, his expression somewhat gloomy. At the same time, Hua Tsubing in armor narrowed his eyes, glanced at the approaching phantasmagoric mist and said in a deep voice, "To choose such a moment. It seems you had this planned all along. Lin Chia, go stop that mist. Don't worry about me, I can handle my own counterfeit," the robed Hua Tsubing spoke again. "Lin Chia, save Chang'an City first. Besides me, you're the only one who can stop this mist. This mist is probably just that monster's illusion. Its true form must be hidden within the mist. What are you waiting for? I said I'll handle this myself. Go quickly and kill its true form. If it enters Chang'an City, countless lives will be lost." Both Hua Cubings spoke in succession. Whether in speech, expression, or movement, neither showed any flaws. Both prioritized the world's safety, hoping Lin Chia would directly intercept the phantasmagoric mist. Lin Chia had considered some clever tactics, such as having both Hua Cubings join him to kill the monster's true form in the mist. Whoever refused would be the fake. But even brief consideration revealed this approach would be suicidal. If they could barely distinguish between the two outside the mist, inside would be the monster's domain. If the counterfeit suddenly turned on them while they fought the monster, neither Lin Chia nor the real Hua Tsubing would survive the mist. Lin Chia scanned both champion marquises repeatedly without answering, then turned to Gong Yongwan behind him. "Well, can you tell?" Gong Yongwan raised her willow branch arm, with an eyeball at its end observing the two identical Hua Cubings. After a long while she nodded slightly. "I can." "Which one is fake?" Gong Yongwan raised an eyebrow but didn't answer, her eyes flashing with light, her thoughts unclear. "Gong Yongwan," Lin Chia said sternly, "answer my question. Actually, even without my discernment, there's a way to identify the real Hua Tsubing, isn't there?" Gong Yongwan's lips curved slightly upward. "Whoever can remove the heart-returning worm from my body is naturally the real champion Marquis." Lin Chia frowned. He was about to speak but seemed to notice something and turned to observe both Hua Cubing's expressions. "Impossible. Impossible." Both Hua Cubings spoke simultaneously. Gong Yongwan abandoned that thought. "The Marquis will not let you return." I said, "I can handle my own counterfeit." As the words fell, both Hua Cubings attacked at once. The next moment, tens of thousands of weapons scattered throughout Chang'an City began to vibrate simultaneously, as if guided by some force, whistling as they rose into the sky. The dense array of weapons surged skyward like a tsunami, then suddenly halted. The weapons trembled as if two invisible hands were fighting for control over them. Both Hua Cubings narrowed their eyes simultaneously. The weapons in the sky instantly split into two halves, flying furiously toward each other. Weapons clashed against weapons above the two champion marquises, dazzling sparks covering half the night sky. Indeed, the phantasmagoric mist had perfectly replicated Emperor's dominion, making their abilities indistinguishable. The armored Huotubing snorted coldly, gripping his spear as he flew forward, instantly reaching the robed Huotubing. The robed Huotubing frowned, thrusting his spear like a swimming dragon, colliding with the armored Huotubing's spear. With a deep rumble, the robed Huotubing was forced half a step back. The armored Huotubing keenly noticed his weakness, swinging his spear in blurring arcs. The robed Huotubing's movements seemed somewhat sluggish, barely blocking the attacks while continuously retreating. Gongyangwan. Lin Chia shouted, "What are you waiting for? Do you really want to see Chang'an City's people slaughtered?" Gongyangwan's body trembled slightly. She looked back at the devastated Chang'an City filled with wailing, as if remembering something, her fists tightly clenched. Finally, she took a deep breath. "Remember what you promised me." She raised her hand, pointing at the Huotubing wearing the blood-stained robe, and slowly said, "He is the fake." Seeing the robed Huotubing at a disadvantage, Lin Chia sighed slightly in relief. He glanced at the approaching phantasmagoric mist, hesitated briefly, then spoke again. "There's no time. I'll stop that mist, you go help the Marquis." "All right." Gongyangwan nodded, her expression unusually serious. Gongyangwan's head shook slightly, her face instantly transforming into that of a rugged, muscular man. A clear bird cry sounded from her body as she shot like a sword toward the two fighting figures. As Lin Chia was about to move, Wu Chuan's voice sounded from behind. "Brother Seven, I'll go with you." Lin Chia looked back to see determination filling Wu Chuan's eyes. "No, we still don't know how strong the cryptid's true form in that mist is. It's too dangerous for you to come with me." "So what if it's dangerous?" Wu Chuan shook his head stubbornly. "Brother Seven, you and Brother Qingzhu have always protected me. It's safe. But this way I'll never grow, will I? The Marquis is Emperor's dominion, and so am I. I want to become as strong as him. Only then can I fulfill my dream." Lin Chia was stunned. His mind once again recalled the black umbrella protecting Shin Qingzhu's head on the wall of Hanshan Orphanage, that dream belonging to Wu Chuan. Lin Chia gazed at Wu Chuan with complex emotions for a moment, but finally nodded. "All right, stay close to me. Once we enter the mist, you absolutely cannot leave my sight, understand?" "Yes." Wu Chuan's eyes shone brightly. Lin Chia moved quickly, taking Wu Chuan with him as they rushed out from Chang'an City Wall. The surrounding darkness was dispelled by flickering light as the iridescent mist gradually swallowed the barren land outside the city, like a beast painted with poisonous colors, silently devouring everything. The two figures plunged into the mist without hesitation and disappeared. Meanwhile, at the edge of Chang'an City, the robed Huotubing blocked the armored Huotubing's attack with his spear, using the momentum to twist his body and leap high, landing far away. His gaze swept the surroundings as Gongyangwan and Yanzhong charged toward him from different directions. "What a good technique," robe-clad Huotubing said in a deep voice. "It seems I have underestimated you. Surrender now and I can spare your life." Armored Huotubing waved his long spear, and the flames burning in Chang'an City transformed into fire dragons that surged toward him, condensing into a scorching fireball with a radius of tens of meters at the spear tip. Robe-clad Huotubing didn't answer. He stomped the ground fiercely, causing the thick city wall to collapse with a rumble. Countless stones circled around him, like a suspended giant stone formation. "A fake is still a fake. No matter what methods you use, you cannot replace me." Robe-clad Huotubing gripped the spear in his hand, and his blood-stained clothes moved without wind. Whoosh! The stones around robe-clad Huotubing suddenly shattered. A clear bird cry whistled past and reached him. He frowned and quickly dodged backward. The sharp blade grazed his nose tip, cutting a smooth crack in the ground. Gongyangwan, with the face of a fierce muscular man, coldly stared at robe-clad Hu Tubing while holding a long sword picked up from somewhere. The air around the blade vibrated rapidly as if another attack was brewing. At this point you're still calling others fake. You people are truly beyond help. Gong Yangwan held the sword with one hand, while her other willow branch-like arm coiled beside her like a snake, with a strange eyeball staring intently at robe-clad Hu Tubing. Gong Yangwan, where did that eye of yours come from? Seeing Gong Yangwan's appearance, robe-clad Hu Tubing frowned deeply. Is that any of your business? Gong Yangwan's figure flickered, instantly rushing dozens of meters forward. The long sword in her hand emitted a bird cry as she slashed at robe-clad Hu Tubing again. Robe-clad Hu Tubing raised his palm, and Gong Yangwan instantly froze in place. A heart-piercing pain emanated from her mind, as if her entire being was about to split in two. Damn it! Why can you control the heart return worm, too? Gong Yangwan's sword fell to the ground with a clang. She clutched her head with one hand, howling in pain. But in the next moment the pain in her mind suddenly disappeared. Armored Hu Tubing had also raised his hand and spoke with a grave expression. Be careful, he has the power of Emperor's Dominion, like me, and can activate the heart return worm. You should retreat, I can handle him. Gong Yangwan's expression changed several times, but she barely hesitated before quickly retreating. She had been captured by Hu Tubing in the first place. If not for her unwillingness to see the people of Chang'an suffer and the constraint of the heart return worm, why would she help Hu Tubing? Now that both the real and fake Hu Tubing could use the heart return worm to kill her, why should she take this risk? Boom! A violent rumbling sound came from the prismatic mist. Both Hu Tubing and Gong Yangwan turned to look. The approaching prismatic mist suddenly began to churn violently. 3 minutes earlier, 2 streaks of light rushed into the mist. Dazzling, disorienting light flowed slowly everywhere they looked, creating a sense of vertigo. After entering here, the concepts of direction and distance become blurred. Lin Chia's gaze swept across the surroundings, looking at the endless prismatic light, recalling his previous experience here. He hadn't noticed it then, but thinking carefully now, he realized there were many strange things about this mist. When he was first enveloped by it, the area was roughly a mountain ravine. At his speed, he should have quickly reached the boundary, but no matter which direction he went, the mist seemed endless. And after he encountered Wu Quan, despite having a rope only a little over 200 meters long, it seemed to stretch for kilometers in the mist. Fortunately, his fake self actively walked out of the mist, allowing them to escape through the rope in Wu Quan's hand. Otherwise, finding a way out would have been quite troublesome. So how do we find the main body of this mist? Wu Quan asked puzzledly. Lin Chia stopped and thought seriously. His gaze fell on the scattered stones on the ground, and his eyes lit up as if he had realized something. Wu Quan, how far can your Emperor's Dominion extend? Right now about 4 kilometers. Lin Chia nodded slightly. He raised his foot and stomped forcefully on the ground below. The terrifying power instantly shattered the earth within a 4-kilometer radius. Countless stone fragments splashed in all directions, and a hemispherical crater appeared beneath the two. Use your Emperor's Dominion to control these fragments. Make them stay close to the ground and move with us. Remember, they must stay close to the ground. Why? Wu Quan asked in confusion while following Lin Chia's instructions, controlling all the fragments within his maximum range, forming a giant circle around their feet. In this mist, both human perception and the distance of objects are affected, but taboo zones aren't. Lin Chia slowly explained. Your Emperor's Dominion can only extend to a maximum of 4 kilometers. No matter how powerful this mist is, it can't enlarge or shrink your limit, so your 4-kilometer range of ability is our best measuring tool. Wu Quan suddenly understood. So next, we'll use these 4 kilometers as a standard to measure the mist and find its main body. Exactly. Lin Chia nodded. He reached out and grabbed Wu Quan's wrist to keep him in sight. Now follow me. If any of the stones within your ability range hit something, alert me immediately. Understood. Lin Chia led Wu Quan and began walking through the mist. Based on Lin Chia's visual estimate of the mist's coverage from outside, it occupied at most a dozen square kilometers. At their speed, they could complete a thorough exploration of the mist within a minute. Flowing colors passed continuously before their eyes, as if they were walking among colorful clouds. After some time, Wu Quan suddenly stopped. Found it, he pointed in one direction. Lin Chia narrowed his eyes and immediately led Wu Quan toward that direction. As they approached, a huge shadow hundreds of meters tall gradually took shape within the dizzying prismatic mist. From its appearance, it looked like a massive willow tree. The thick trunk stood on the ground like a mountain, and countless writhing black branches, like human hair, swayed slightly in the wind. Where the roots should have been, dense human legs supported the entire trunk, resembling a bizarre centipede, carrying it as it slowly moved in a certain direction. Lin Chia and Wu Quan stood at the foot of this enormous willow tree, just slightly taller than the root part composed of human legs. They had to raise their heads to see the full shape of the willow tree shrouded in mist. What is this thing? Looking at such a bizarre and enormous willow tree, Wu Quan felt his scalp tingle. Lin Chia, having seen K-system creatures before, wasn't too surprised. His gaze narrowed slightly. On the trunk of the willow tree, strange pustules bulged out, appearing human-shaped from the outside. Could it be? Lin Chia seemed to have realized something, his eyes emitting a faint light. Brother Chia, what should we do next? Since we found its true form, we naturally need to stop it, but before that I need to verify something. Lin Chia raised his hand and a broken sword fell into his palm, which he then handed to Wu Quan. This is. Control this sword to remotely cut open those pustules on the tree trunk. Pustules. Wu Quan took the Amenohabakiri sword and nodded, all right. He lightly tossed the Amenohabakiri sword, which immediately transformed into a streak of light, rushing toward the massive willow tree that was slowly moving. The sharp blade easily cut open a pustule, and a large amount of dark yellow viscous liquid poured out from the wound. Vaguely, a human form wrapped in the liquid flowed out from the tree trunk along with it. Jia! A piercing roar came from the top of the willow tree, and its enormous body immediately shuddered violently as if in pain. Countless willow branches instantly locked onto the Amenohabakiri sword, circling in the air, surging toward it like a swarm of snakes. Under Wu Quan's control, the Amenohabakiri sword quickly spun back, cutting down several willow branches in succession, forcefully breaking through the encirclement and flying toward the sky. Save that person. Following Lin Chia's order, Wu Quan raised his other hand, and the human form falling with the pus suddenly paused, then flew directly toward Lin Chia. At this moment, the advantage of Emperor of Domination became apparent. Its near-omnipotent control on the battlefield could perfectly adapt to any situation, gaining the upper hand whether attacking or defending. Under Wu Quan's control, the person floated down in front of Lin Chia. It was an ordinary soldier wearing armor. Although Lin Chia didn't recognize him, judging from his attire, he was indeed a member of the expeditionary force. Lin Chia reached out to check his breathing. Though extremely weak, he was still alive. Although his life force has been depleted somewhat, he's not dead. It seems this Ku-system creature is using some method to gradually devour their lives. Lin Chia pondered. These people are like soil, having their nutrients absorbed by the willow tree. If we were any later, they would probably have been drained dry. Brother Chia, it has discovered us. Wu Quan's voice was extremely solemn. Lin Chia looked up and saw that the enormous willow tree had turned its body. The ends of some willow branches raised up, with hundreds of eyeballs staring intently at the two of them. Following a sharp screech, countless willow branches howled toward them. Lin Chia stood up, slowly clenching his fists. An invisible vortex of air spread around him, with crackling sounds coming from within his body. "Protect yourself and cover me." After Lin Chia calmly instructed, in the next moment he stomped forcefully on the ground, creating an exaggerated crater. A visible mock ring exploded as he instantly flew to the upper half of the willow tree. His speed was so fast that the countless willow branches couldn't even react in time. As his fist raised high, a deafening boom echoed through the smoke. Boom! This giant willow tree, whose size was tens of thousands of times larger than Lin Chia, was sent reeling backward by his single punch. The countless human legs at its base frantically stepped back to barely maintain balance. A terrifying fist crater was deeply imprinted on the trunk. Seeing this, Lin Chia slightly furrowed his brow. He had always found it difficult to gauge the realm of Q-system creatures. Although their emitted aura could roughly be classified using Earth's realm system, at the same level, Q-system creatures were far stronger than Earth's counterparts. In terms of mythological systems, the three pillar gods of the Q-system should correspond to Earth's supreme realm, but whether it was Black Goat, Key to the Gate, Orgus, none could be dealt with by a single supreme god. Even to kill Black Goat, it required the combined efforts of three heavenly venerable and Michael. The willow tree before him, though its aura was comparable to a human ceiling, ordinary human ceilings could hardly withstand Lin Chia's punch head-on. The good news was that this willow tree's ability seemed to focus more on replication. It could perfectly replicate an emperor of domination, but its true form, apart from those willow branches, didn't seem to have other means of attack. "Brother Chia, be careful." Wu Quan's voice came from afar, and a sword light flashed behind Lin Chia, directly cutting down dozens of willow branches that were coiling toward him. Lin Chia used the sword as leverage, twisting his body in midair, and heavily kicked the willow tree's trunk. Under a spray of wood chips, the tree tilted to one side again. Lin Chia didn't stop there. He actively grabbed several coiling willow branches, pulled hard, and his figure ran rapidly up the nearly vertical trunk. Those branches were uprooted by this move, and another miserable howl came from the top of the willow branches. Indeed, the weak point is at the top of the tree. Lin Chia's eyes narrowed slightly. His figure left a trail of afterimages on the trunk's surface. With his terrifying speed and movement technique, he continuously avoided the attacks of numerous willow branches. The top of the willow tree kept enlarging in his sight. However, the higher he went, the closer he got to the roots of the willow branches. Dense willow twigs covered his head like dark clouds, leaving no gap for passage. "Wu Quan!" Lin Chia called out, and the sound of the Amenohabikiri sword rang out from behind again, whistling past the layered willow branches. The sharp sword light frantically slashed through, forcibly tearing open a gap for him. Lin Chia's figure leaped through the dense sea of willow twigs, soaring upward. Under the rolling, colorful smoke, his height exceeded that of the enormous willow tree. Looking down, Lin Chia saw a hideous, eerie pale face growing at the very top of the willow tree. Three crimson pupils were staring intently at Lin Chia in midair. That crooked, sharp mouth opened, letting out an angry screech. The willow branches growing beneath the pale face frantically extended upward, but their speed was no match for Lin Chia. Lin Chia's figure fell directly toward that pale face. The power throughout his body surged, and the veins on his right arm bulged one by one. At this distance, he was confident he could shatter the willow tree's weak point with one punch. Just as Lin Chia was about to deliver his punch, that hideous pale face suddenly paused, and its crooked mouth corners turned up, revealing an eerie smile. Ding! A clear sword ring sounded, and in the next moment, a streak of light pierced through Lin Chia's heart from behind. A broken sword blade protruded from his chest. Lin Chia's figure suddenly froze. He looked down at his chest in astonishment, his pupils violently contracting. "The Amenohabikiri sword? Ha!" An unrestrained laugh came from below. At the foot of the willow tree's roots, Wu Quan was applauding vigorously, his palms turning red from clapping. Like an audience member who had just watched an excellent comedy, he laughed uncontrollably. Brilliant, truly brilliant. No matter in which era, you always give me the best experience. You did well, child. Hearing the last sentence, Lin Chia was struck as if by lightning. He staggered and fell from the sky back to the ground, dust and sand flying up all around. The Tenchikumajiri sword pierced through his body from behind, crimson blood spreading in all directions. Os. Lin Chia looked at Wu Chuan, who was slowly walking toward him, his eyes filled with shock. How can you be here? Surprising, isn't it? You barely managed to come back from 2,000 years in the future. And in this era the Cthulhu gods haven't even descended yet. How could I be here? Wu Chuan chuckled lightly, raising one finger to point at the sky above. Have you forgotten? In the river of time, there is an eye that has been watching you all along. Lin Chia seemed to realize something, his gaze slowly shifting to the sky covered in phantasmal mist. Black willow branches danced wildly in the air, countless human legs carrying the willow trees, passing over his body and running toward Chang'an City. The key to the gate, Lin Chia growled through clenched teeth. And Qingyu had mentioned before that above all time, the key to the gate was constantly watching humanity's past, present and future from a certain point in time. As an omniscient and omnipresent deity, nothing could escape its eyes. Did you think it wouldn't know that you crossed 2,000 years in the river of time? Wu Chuan spread his hands helplessly. I must say your idea of crossing the river of time to arrive at the moment before our second descent, seeking a chance of survival for humanity, was quite good. Unfortunately, you still underestimated us. So, you were sent here by the key to the gate? Lin Chia frowned, then immediately shook his head. No, that's not right. You are both pillar gods. The key to the gate's true form cannot come through, and the same should apply to you. You're not your true form, are you? Wu Chuan chuckled and didn't deny it. He slowly crouched in front of Lin Chia and opened his mouth. A black index finger was already lying on his tongue, wiggling at Lin Chia as if greeting him. Wu Chuan swallowed the finger and, looking at the increasingly pale face before him, continued. Your primordial spirit embryo is indeed special. Even Kusin couldn't replicate it. The key to the gate was unwilling to pay an extra price, and in an era where the Cthulhu gods haven't descended, no one could kill you in direct combat. Even replicating a Huatsubing wouldn't work. To kill you, it truly required some effort, and only I could set up this trap. You did all this, just to kill me? Of course. You're fake. So, is Gongyang also fake? And the Huatsubing she identified, is he fake too? You arranged so many pieces just so Wu Chuan could gain my trust and return with me into this mist. Wu Chuan couldn't help but laugh. Do you like this trap I've set? Lin Chia looked at Wu Chuan's familiar face and suddenly understood many things. Despite the Cthulhu gods not having descended yet, that crimson meteor had appeared out of nowhere and flown straight toward them. No matter how they tried to dodge, they couldn't escape the meteor's impact zone. Lin Chia had considered that the meteor might be targeting him, but later he easily defeated his own counterfeit. And moreover, the Cthulhu gods hadn't even descended in this era, which led him to stop thinking deeply about it. Back in the mist, he had searched extensively but found none of the 30,000 troops. Yet he ran into Wu Chuan, who happened to have a rope connected to his counterfeit, and who happened to lead them out of the mist, subtly guiding him and discouraging him from investigating further. Because if Wu Chuan hadn't led him out of the mist, and if he had thought of using measurement to explore the mist, Kusin's existence would have been exposed, and the entire plot would have fallen apart. After Chang'an City fell into chaos, Wu Chuan immediately found him and entered the palace with him. Meanwhile, the fake Gongyang Wan, imprisoned in front of a hall, was attacked right on schedule by counterfeit soldiers, drawing their attention. After killing the fake soldiers and gaining some of his trust, she directly swallowed a willow branch, obtaining the power to see through disguises. Of course, as a counterfeit, Gong Yongwan's perception was constantly being modified by the willow tree itself. So even if she truly believed she could distinguish between real and fake, it was just her belief. From the beginning she was just a pawn used by Chaos to gain his trust. After she gained the ability to distinguish between real and fake, a few impersonated soldiers conveniently appeared, proving her ability and earning more of his trust, while also making Wu Chuan gain his trust, which was exactly what Chaos wanted. When he saw two Huecubings appear simultaneously, Lin Chia found it strange. If the fake Huecubing had been replicated before entering Chang'an City, he shouldn't have been injured. Yet both Huecubings he saw were wounded. Now the answer was obvious. He had discovered the traces of the life-extinguishing flash moon, with Wu Chuan, and surely guessed that the real Huecubing was already injured. To better confuse and delay the real Huecubing, Chaos had deliberately instructed Kusin to leave wounds on the fake Huecubing's body. Then Kusin's true form approached Chang'an City, using the city's residents as hostages. While the real and fake Huecubings were fighting, Chaos made him and Wu Chuan enter the mist alone, and at the critical moment of his battle with Kusin, delivered a fatal blow with the Tenchikumajiri sword. The entire plot, one link after another, seemed unrelated to him at every step, but each step was aimed directly at him. From the moment that phantasmal mist enveloped him, he was already trapped in Chaos's deadly scheme. Most crucially, throughout the entire process, Chaos never controlled anyone's thoughts or actions. Whether it was the fake Gong Yongwan, the two Huecubings, or the fake Wu Chuan himself, they all acted according to their own habits and thought patterns. The only thing it changed was the fake Gong Yongwan's perception of real and fake. This was why, until Wu Chuan struck with that sword, Lin Chia never detected the killing intent directed at him. Lin Chia looked at Wu Chuan's familiar face, his fists tightly clenched. This feeling of being trapped and led to his death was the second time he had experienced it, and both times, the architect of these deadly traps was Chaos. The terrifying aspect of Chaos wasn't like the key to the gate's omnipresent gaze, nor like the black goat's endless pollution and assimilation. Its power of transformation, plotting, and manipulation of human hearts was the foundation of its strength. This kind of despair and suffocation, even Loki before him would seem like a native deity who only knew petty tricks. Wu Chuan slowly stood up, looking down at Lin Chia and speaking leisurely. "There aren't many people who can make me take action twice. You're the only human. Unfortunately, you won't have the chance to use these little tricks again." Little tricks. Crimson blood seeped from the corner of Lin Chia's mouth as he coughed and slowly got up from the ground, coldly smiling. If they were really just little tricks, then why would the key of the door specifically send you from 2,000 years ago? The key of the door noticed me, and you were willing to cut off one of your fingers to come back and kill me? This means that what I'm about to do in this era will threaten you. Isn't that right? You all are afraid of me. Afraid. Wu Chuan laughed coldly. "You think too highly of yourself, Lin Chia. I admit there are some remarkable things about you. But so what? Last time I couldn't kill you, but this time, can that one come out to help you again?" With a lift of his fingertip, the Kusanagi sword suddenly pulled out from behind Lin Chia, spinning half a circle in the air before slashing across his chest. A hideous bloody gash extended from his collarbone all the way down to his lower abdomen, nearly splitting him in half. Lin Chia's expression twisted in agony as blood splattered frantically on the ground. Despite suffering 2 fatal wounds, he still gritted his teeth and stood firm on the earth, his eyes fixed on Wu Chuan before him. With an angry roar, he clenched his right fist and threw a powerful punch. Bang! Wu Chuan's head was shattered by his punch. Blood mixed with some white matter splattered all over Lin Chia, blending with his own blood, making him look like a blood statue. The headless Wu Chuan fell to the ground with a thud, and moments later transformed into a willow branch covered with eyeballs. A black severed finger floated in midair, not having been smashed along with the rest, eerily strange amidst the swirling phantasmal smoke. The fingertips split open automatically as if growing a mouth, and chaos. His voice sounded again. Die by your own sword. Lin Chia. As the words fell, the Kusanagi sword whistled through the smoke. With a flash of sword light, Lin Chia's neck was cleanly severed, his head slowly rolling to the ground, his angry eyes still staring fixedly at that black severed finger. At this moment, that strong and powerful heart finally slowly stopped beating. One sword through the heart, one sword splitting the body, one sword beheading. Even the primordial spirit embryo could not withstand the 3 killing blows delivered by the Kusanagi sword. The black severed finger hovered silently in the air for a moment, confirming that Lin Chia was completely dead before transforming into a streak of light and disappearing into the distance. In the rolling phantasmal smoke, a bloody corpse lay motionless on the ground. Sizzle. Vaguely, a pale green progress bar flashed above the corpse, instantly disappearing. Lin Chia healing progress, 49%. Outside Chang'an City. A rolling fire dragon roared as it devoured half the city wall, the surging flames dyeing the entire sky crimson. A cold glint shot out from the flames as 2 spears collided without flourish. Dazzling sparks erupted under the night sky. As armored Hua Tubing stomped the ground fiercely, his second spear thrust instantly toward the other's throat. Clay. Robed Hua Tubing swung his spear to block the strike, but the terrifying force transmitted through the shaft tore one side of his robe to pieces. Robed Hua Tubing groaned, staggering back several steps. Looking down, he saw that the robe made from the black flag was already in tatters. On the side of his body, a hideous sword wound was frighteningly visible. As the black flag tore apart, blood gushed out uncontrollably. It seems your wounds are worse than mine. Even though you temporarily sealed them with the black dragon flag, your movements are still affected, said armored Hua Tubing, holding his spear with one hand as he slowly approached. That wound was left by Yu Wu, wasn't it? What did you do to him? Robed Hua Tubing didn't respond. He glanced at the approaching phantasmal smoke in the distance, took a deep breath, and directly tore off the remaining black flag fragments still hanging around his wound. His young body, covered in scars, was exposed to the air, hideous yet proportionate, like a work of art escaped from death's hands. Hua Tubing held his spear with one hand, his back straight as a pillar. As a gleam of light ignited in his pupils, violent gusts of wind suddenly erupted from within his body in all directions. Sand and gravel were propelled outward like shotgun pellets in this gale. The wind swept across the land, and Gong Yongwan, losing her balance, was blasted back dozens of meters. She staggered to stabilize herself on the ground, her eyes filled with shock as she looked at robed Hua Tubing. This aura. Damn it, how can even a fake be so powerful? Robed Hua Tubing's form floated up from the ground as the terrifying power of domination flowed back into his body, precisely attaching to every corner of his being. Under his deliberate control, his body began to emit a crimson glow, and his aura climbed at an alarming rate. The thick cloud layer beneath the red star seemed stirred by an invisible hand. A massive vortex slowly rotated above him, with hideous lightning dancing between the clouds, emitting dragon-like roars. That is Emperor's crimson blood, armored Hua Tubing said slowly, staring at the terrifying figure in the sky. Through the precise control of Emperor's domination, he perfectly dominates his own muscles, blood vessels, and nerves, breaking the limits of his physical body to the maximum extent, erupting with multiplied battle power in an extremely short time. The price, however, is greatly shortened remaining lifespan, possibly even immediate death. This usage method exists only in my mind. I never expected he would dare to put it into practice. Gong Yongwan raised an eyebrow. Though he's a fake, his courage is indeed surprising. What do you plan to do? He's using Emperor's crimson blood. If I don't use it too, I won't last a few moves against him. He's forcing me to perish together with him. Armored Hua Tubing coldly stared at robed Hua Tubing in the sky, his hand gripping the spear shaft suddenly tightening. Boom! An equally violent gust of wind erupted as armored Hutubing's eyes were tinged with a layer of light, and his entire aura climbed rapidly along with robed Hutubing's. He wants a fight to the death with me. I shall grant his wish. Armored Hutubing spoke calmly. The next moment his form transformed into a streak of light shooting into the clouds. The rolling lightning tore the entire sky into two halves. Dark clouds churned and lightning flashed like a forest as the two emperors rushed toward each other above Chang'an City, the shock waves visibly sweeping across the sky. Boom, boom, boom. The deep purple lightning danced across the sky like wild snakes. Several blazing explosions lit up the night sky as two figures collided. In Chang'an City, countless civilians who had survived the disaster knelt down and kowtowed repeatedly upon seeing the two figures battling like deities. Evil stars cross the sky, malevolent spirits run rampant, and today Chang'an is stained with blood again. What has become of this world? We have angered the gods. We have angered the gods. May the Marquis protect us, may the Marquis protect us. In the Imperial Palace, Emperor Wu of Han gazed motionlessly at the two figures wielding divine powers in battle beneath the night sky. After some time, Emperor Wu murmured, "I knew the champion Marquis possessed extraordinary power, but I never imagined he could reach such heights. With such divine power, how is the champion Marquis any different from a deity?" Li the eunuch paused, then smiled helplessly. "Perhaps there is no difference." Emperor Wu remained silent for a long while, a bitter expression crossing his face. "I originally worried that if the Demon Suppression Bureau escaped my control, it would become a threat. Now it seems if the champion Marquis truly harbored rebellious intentions, perhaps my entire court combined wouldn't survive a single finger of his. If so, what meaning is there in whether I control the Demon Suppression Bureau or not?" Li the eunuch smiled. "The champion Marquis's unwavering loyalty is known to all. Why should your majesty worry about this?" Emperor Wu shook his head slightly, took one last look at the two figures battling in the sky, then turned and walked directly into the palace. "Li Ying, bring me a brush." Boom. A figure fell from the sky like a cannonball, crashing violently into the ground. Immediately after, a fierce bolt of lightning descended from the heavens, instantly engulfing the figure in rolling thunder. A dust-covered hand emerged from the smoke, tearing open a gap in the surging lightning. Hutubing in armor holding a spear, slowly walked out. His armor was already in tatters. Hutubing in robes, his upper body bare, slowly descended to the ground. Under the state of Emperor's crimson blood, the wound on his back left by life-extinguishing flash moon had temporarily stopped bleeding and no longer hindered his movements. If this Marquis hadn't been injured earlier, you would have already been defeated. Now that we're both under the influence of Emperor's crimson blood, how could a fake like you be my match? The robed Hutubing spoke solemnly. Still stubborn even at death's door. The armored Hutubing snorted coldly. "Even if your combat power is slightly higher than mine now, you're bearing a heavier price than I am. How much longer can your lifespan sustain the Emperor's crimson blood?" "Long enough to kill you." The robed Hutubing suddenly hurled his spear. Enhanced by the power of domination, it instantly broke the sound barrier, tearing up the ground below. The armored Hutubing narrowed his eyes and pressed his palm against the approaching spear shadow. The same power of domination applied in the opposite direction stopped the spear midair. The spear hung spinning furiously between them, dense electric arcs dancing around it. Suddenly the armored Hutubing's aura faltered. The spear seized the opening and whistled through the air, piercing his shoulder and leaving a crimson wound. The armored Hutubing's pupils contracted violently. He flashed several steps to the side and back, looking at his shoulder with disbelief. "What did you do? Why is my Emperor's crimson blood becoming unstable?" This Marquis did nothing. The robed Hutubing raised his right hand, steadily catching the returning spinning spear, speaking unhurriedly. Your Emperor's crimson blood is unstable because your lifespan is about to be exhausted. No, this marquis should still have a year of life left. How could it be consumed so quickly? A year? That's for me. The robed Huatsubing spoke slowly. But you're just a counterfeit created by the willow branch. Your lifespan is naturally extremely short. As long as we both activate Emperor's crimson blood, your lifespan won't last long at all. This marquis is a fake? The armored Huatsubing was stunned. He stared blankly at his gradually whitening body, confusion appearing in his eyes. How could this marquis be a fake? This marquis clearly. Clang. The armored Huatsubing's spear fell to the ground, and his aura rapidly weakened. With his life force depleted, Emperor's crimson blood was forcibly terminated, and his flame of life instantly dimmed to the extreme. This marquis told you a fake is a fake. I can never replace this marquis. The robed Huatsubing, gripping his spear, slowly walked up to the armored Huatsubing. Electric arcs rapidly gathered at the spear tip, and a world-destroying aura spread quickly. The armored Huatsubing's expression changed from disbelief to confusion to self-doubt. He looked at the approaching Huatsubing, stunned for a long while, and finally let out a long sigh. So that's it, so that's how it is. You are a counterfeit of this marquis. Now you should know what you need to do. The robed Huatsubing stared into those eyes. Do you have anything to say? The armored Huatsubing thought for a moment, then shook his head helplessly. No, there's nothing left in my memory. That thing can modify my perception and must have erased everything related to it. Before it erases my rationality, you'd better act quickly. The robed Huatsubing didn't seem surprised by this answer. He nodded, and his spear instantly pierced through the armored Huatsubing's chest. The armored Huatsubing didn't resist. He stood there silently, impaled by the spear tip. Crimson blood flowed from the corner of his mouth as he gazed at the face identical to his own, guilt appearing in his eyes. Sorry. As the words fell, the armored Huatsubing's last trace of life completely vanished. The corpse fell heavily to the ground, and as the pool of blood spread, a willow branch with an eyeball emerged. Huatsubing looked at the willow branch corpse with a complicated expression. He deactivated Emperor's crimson blood, and an unprecedented weakness surged through him. He supported himself with his spear against the ground, barely maintaining his posture, his face as white as paper. His lifespan was already nearing its end, and this forced use of Emperor's crimson blood had drastically shortened it. He could feel that his time was running out. How is this possible? A voice came from the distance. Gong Yongwan, who had just arrived, looked at the willow branch corpse on the ground with shock in her eyes. He was fake, you're real? How is this possible? What I saw was clearly. Before she finished speaking, she seemed to realize something and stiffly turned her head toward Huatsubing, pointing at herself. My perception was modified. Am I also fake? Huatsubing looked at the confused Gong Yongwan without speaking. When Gong Yongwan first identified him as a counterfeit, Huatsubing had guessed two possibilities. First, Gong Yongwan knew he was real but deliberately framed him, hoping to eliminate him through the counterfeit Huatsubing and Lin Chia. This way she would be completely free. But judging from Gong Yongwan's subsequent behavior, this possibility seemed unlikely. So the only possibility was that Gong Yongwan was also a counterfeit. She wanted to help Lin Chia and Huatsubing, but her perception had been altered, causing her to misidentify the fake Huatsubing. I'm a counterfeit, then where is the real me? Is she still alive? Gong Yongwan trembled as she muttered to herself. She suddenly turned to look at the approaching phantasmagoric mist, as if remembering something, and gritted her teeth before charging directly into the mist. Whoosh! A long spear flew past her front, smashing a terrifying deep pit in the ground beneath her feet. Gong Yongwan turned to look back. Hu Xubing was walking toward her, covering his wound and looking weak. What are you looking for your original self for? Even if you devour her, you're still fake. Cough, cough, cough. Hu Xubing slowly spoke. Devour her? Why would I devour her? I want to save her. Gong Yongwan stood in the ruins with disheveled hair, shouting at the mist. She can't die. Esu is still alive. I need to rescue him. Hu Xubing. If you try to stop me now, I'll fight you to the death. Anyway, my life is worthless now, so I have nothing to fear. Gong Yongwan glared fiercely at Hu Xubing, then leaped over the spear and rushed rapidly toward the mist. Hu Xubing watched her departing figure, slightly furrowing his brow. After hesitating for a moment, he didn't activate the heart-returning goo to stop her, but allowed her to rush in. Just then a black light flew out from the mist. Seeing Gong Yongwan running toward it, it made a slight sound of surprise before crashing directly into her skull. The light moved too fast for even Gong Yongwan to react. She only felt darkness before her eyes, and suddenly halted in front of the mist. She opened her mouth and licked her red lips, with a black severed finger already crawling at the base of her tongue. Tisk 2,000 years. That key of the gate. Fellow probably won't be kind enough to send me back again. This body is not bad, should be enough for me to use for a while. Gong Yongwan casually flipped her messy black hair, no longer entering the phantasmagoric mist, but turning to walk slowly toward Chang'an City. She glanced at the imperial palace standing majestically in the night deep within Chang'an, and the corners of her mouth curved slightly upward. Being a human emperor might be quite interesting too. Gong Yongwan walked unhurriedly toward Chang'an. After just a couple of steps, a figure appeared before her. You're not Gong Yongwan. Who are you? Blood-covered Hu Xubing gripped his spear, frowning at Gong Yongwan before him, and spoke in a deep voice. He had witnessed Gong Yongwan walk to the mist and then get struck by a beam of black light. The Gong Yongwan before him now was different in both demeanor and habits from the original. Although he already knew she was a counterfeit, she shouldn't have changed so dramatically all of a sudden. Oh, you're still not dead. Gong Yongwan raised her eyebrows in surprise. Having successfully orchestrated Lin Chia's death and now facing a nearly dead Hu Xubing, couldn't be bothered to pretend anymore. With a light laugh she said, What, in your current state you still think you can stop me? Boom. As Gong Yongwan finished speaking, the phantasmagoric mist behind her churned violently. A massive willow tree figure supported by countless legs crashed down behind her. Without the mist obscuring it, its full appearance was displayed directly before Chang'an City. Countless willow branches twisted like snakes in the air, with sharp hisses echoing through the sky. This enormous entity surveyed the entire city from the clouds, its terrifying appearance immediately paralyzing most of the citizens with fear. Hu Xubing's already pale face grew even more grim. Having forced himself to activate Emperor's red blood, to kill the counterfeit while his lifespan was nearly exhausted, he was already in an extremely weakened state. Facing Gong Yongwan possessed by Kus, as well as Kujuan who exceeded the human ceiling boundary, he had virtually no chance of victory. Although it's a few hundred years early, it doesn't matter. Consider this my welcoming gift to you. Gong Yongwan's lips curved slightly upward as she patted the giant willow root beside her and said softly, Spread your offspring. Kujuan. A sharp hiss came from the top of the willow tree. The pale face growing on the crown suddenly opened its giant mouth, and spores the size of palaces shot out from within, soaring straight into the clouds. These giant spores continued to rise under terrifying propulsion, flying to the very edge of the atmosphere, then changing direction and plummeting toward the ground below. Under constant acceleration from gravity, their shells rapidly rubbed against the atmosphere, resembling fiery meteors streaking across the night sky. They scattered evenly toward the ground, targeting rivers, mountains, cities, valleys. Their targets covered the entire Han dynasty, numbering nearly 100. Inside the imperial palace, The current director of the Imperial Astronomical Bureau hurriedly ran out of the hall. Seeing these meteor showers falling across the horizon, his face turned pale. His legs gave way and he fell to his knees with a thud, trembling as he muttered, "Calamity upon all living things! What a calamity!" Outside Chang'an City, Hu Xubing witnessed this scene, his hand gripping the spear ever tighter, his knuckles completely white. Are you the Cthulhu being Lin Chia mentioned?" Hu Xubing suddenly pulled his spear from the ground, his power of domination emanating once more, a surging killing intent erupting. "I'm sorry, please allow me to introduce myself." Gong Yongwan raised an eyebrow, smiling as she stuck out her tongue, revealing a severed finger exposed to the air. "Nyarlathotep, you can also call me the Crawling Cuss, one of the 3 pillars of Cthulhu." As she spoke, that finger made a slight beckoning motion, and a goo worm flew out from Gong Yongwan's throat, crashing into a sharp stone on the ground and turning into a puddle of flesh. "Heart-returning goo?" Hu Xubing's gaze sharpened. "This is my welcoming gift to you, how about that?" "Chaos," his voice sounded again. A fiery red figure swiftly crossed the city wall, landing steadily on a huge rock. She looked at the absurdly large willow tree and Gong Yongwan standing before the swirling phantasmagoric mist, her brows tightly furrowed. "This is big trouble," Chloe muttered to herself. Her appearance also caught Hu Xubing's attention. Looking at the human girl who emanated an aura similar to his own, confusion appeared in his eyes. "Are you the champion Marquis?" Chloe asked in fluent Han Chinese. "I'm Lin Chia's friend, you should know him, right? These things are tricky. Shall we join forces?" Hu Xubing examined her carefully for a few moments, hesitated briefly but finally nodded. "All right." Gong Yongwan stood on the face at the crown of the tree, carried by Kujuan's willow branches. She looked down at Hu Xubing and Chloe, her eyes revealing a mocking expression. How presumptuous! In the endless darkness, the familiar feeling of falling enveloped Lin Chia once again. He kept his eyes tightly shut, his face filled with anxiety and anger, as if still trapped in some nightmare. A touch of white, like ink spreading, diffused through the blackness, and a small boy who appeared to be only 6 or 7 years old slowly floated out from it. He didn't wake Lin Chia but instead carefully examined him. His gaze moved up along Lin Chia's body to a pale green progress bar floating in the darkness. "Lin Chia treatment progress, 49%. This time the speed is a bit faster than usual," the little boy pondered. Just then Lin Chia, floating in the darkness, suddenly contorted his expression. His eyes snapped open and his form dropped from midair, hunching over on the non-existent ground, breathing frantically. Cough, 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 cough. The little boy watched Lin Chia gasping and coughing violently, his eyebrows slightly raised. He actually woke up on his own. Lin Chia coughed on the ground for a full half-minute before a hint of color returned to his pale face. He looked around, saw the little boy standing in the endless darkness and suddenly froze. "This again. I died again. Yes. I seem to have died." Lin Chia appeared to remember something, his expression growing complex. He slowly stood up and looked at the little boy who resembled him greatly, asking with confusion, "Who exactly are you? What relationship do you have with me? Why are you inside my body? Is the patient in the last room of the hospital you?" Since his last awakening, Lin Chia had been pondering the little boy's identity. He had searched through all the night watchman headquarters but found no information about him. He had kept these questions bottled up and had even considered deliberately dying to come here and ask him. Now seeing him again, he couldn't miss the chance and blurted out all his questions at once. "You have too many questions." The little boy shook his head. "Rather than these, you should be more concerned about yourself." "Me? You're about to die. Don't I always come here after I've already died? If you were dead, how could you see me?" The little boy's expression remained unchanged. "Right now you're in a dying state. The previous times I could help you return, but last time I told you that was the last time I would help you. So this time you can only rely on yourself. Rely on myself? What should I do? Reclaim what belongs to you. Only then will you have a chance of survival. What belongs to me? Lin Chia thought for a moment as if realizing something. You mean, my forbidden domain? The little boy nodded slightly. But I can't feel it now and it has never appeared. Even when I used the ghost god inducer, it wasn't activated. Lin Chia's face was full of confusion. Does it really exist? Of course it exists. The ghost god inducer can't activate it because it's too vast. Drugs simply can't awaken it, and the probability of natural awakening is close to zero. Hearing this, Lin Chia's expression became peculiar. No wonder he hadn't awakened his own forbidden domain until now. It was because it was too powerful? And both he and the ghost god inducer weren't qualified? If that's the case, how do I awaken it? Ordinary methods would hardly be effective, but now you have a helper. The little boy extended his hand, pointing at Lin Chia's head. Lin Chia looked up and saw the familiar progress bar freezing in place. The progress bar had actually followed him here, and it didn't seem to be flickering like in the outside world. In this pitch-black space, the panel was unusually stable. You mean, the lottery? Lin Chia asked with some concern. The God's mental hospital isn't here, can I still draw? Yes. But the treatment progress is still 1% short. The little boy stared at Lin Chia, silent for a long time, then beckoned to him. Come. Lin Chia was startled, but despite his confusion he stepped toward the little boy. He walked through the boundless darkness around him, his feet stepping into that pure white domain, standing face to face with the little boy. This was the first time Lin Chia had observed the little boy at such close range. He only came up to his waist. Looking down, Lin Chia could clearly see every detail of the other's face. Looking at him, Lin Chia felt like he was looking into a mirror from his childhood. It wasn't just a resemblance. Lin Chia was almost certain that this was exactly how he looked as a child. Sit down, the little boy spoke again. Lin Chia made a sound of agreement and sat cross-legged. The little boy then sat down as well. In this boundless darkness, two Lin Kais sat on a bright patch of white facing each other. Tell me about yourself. What? Your experiences. I want to hear them. My experiences? Lin Chia thought for a moment. Which part do you want to hear? All of it. That's a very long story. It doesn't matter. Here we have enough time. Seeing that the little boy wasn't joking, Lin Chia didn't refuse. Where should I start? Start from when you were 7 when you went to your aunt's house. All right. Lin Chia nodded. I don't remember much from my childhood, so I can only tell you a few simple things. When I arrived at my aunt's house, Ajin was still in swaddling clothes. Lin Chia carefully recalled his past, recounting it steadily. The little boy sat in front of him, propping his head with one hand, listening very attentively. Here time seemed to have no meaning, and there was no one to disturb them, leaving only Lin Chia's voice echoing continuously. Later I met that man. His name was Zhao Kongqing. Our first meeting was on my way home. There were 2 ghost-faced people at the time. Squad 136 was the place I missed most after becoming a night watchman. Our captain was called Chen Mai. Songnan was fake. The people living there all existed because of me. After my aunt died, I went crazy. I received treatment at the Fasting Institute for a long time. Later they found me and we planned to escape from there together. We were the only ones who successfully escaped in nearly 100 years. Perhaps from the moment we stepped outside those walls, our fates were already connected. Our name was Nightfall. A reminiscent look appeared in Lin Chia's eyes. After becoming a night watchman, his narrative became more detailed. He told the little boy how they had broken through the human circle and Takamagara, how they had escaped from heaven and hell alive, how they had destroyed Asgard, how they had fought side by side at Chenen Pass. The little boy quietly listened to his story. In those calm eyes, rare emotional fluctuations appeared. His lips curved slightly upward as if he was immersed in the tale. Meanwhile, neither of them noticed that in this deathly silent black world, the progress bar above Lin Chia's head had silently moved forward one notch. Lin Chia treatment progress. 50%.